With Bitcoin falling down to the critical level of $100,000, it really is make it or break it time for crypto. If it fails to hold the line, then the top may have already been in at the beginning of the month, and that may be all we're getting for the rest of this cycle. I do, however, remain optimistic that if the US government can reopen ASAP, then we all could be treated to one final last blow off top. And so in this video, as always, we'll be covering the latest price action as there's been some crazy things going on and the key levels to watch. Then where are we in the 4-year cycle and why right now really is a critical moment. And then we'll finish with how I'm personally navigating this storm. We'll cover the recent strategic updates I've made to my own portfolio. Okay, so first up, over the past couple of weeks, crypto and in particular altcoin holders have taken a bit of a hit. So let's take a look at the key levels to watch. Okay, so jumping over to Bitcoin USD on the daily, and what have we got? Well, as you can see, recently crypto and Bitcoin have really been struggling over the past week. Another drop down, and as I've said for a while, this really is the line in the sand here, the big psychological level of $100,000. This should be acting as major support. And as you can see, it briefly broke below, but regained. And for me, this is the key line to watch. And with Bitcoin struggling to the downside, it means altcoins got hit even harder. Some of the casualties, Ethereum took a massive drop as well. Solana took a massive drop as well. So obviously on the downside, altcoins go down even faster. Now, interestingly, the other thing to keep an eye on is the 50-day moving average, as there's some interesting things here. If we just go back a little bit, you can see in a bull market, it normally stays above this moving average. However, in times of this sideways and downwards consolidation, it does briefly pierce below before jumping back up. It did test it again here before causing a nice rally to the upside. Then massive breakout, but again in the painful sideways consolidation where things are getting really ugly and there's big fearful drops, and it just keeps going, It got retested again here. It did pierce below but managed to get back above. And then it did cause a nice big move to the upside onto new highs. So the question mark in my mind is this just another repeat of what's happened before? So you can see sideways consolidation. It did set this all-time high here. It's struggled, it's come down, it's pierced below this moving average. It has regained. So the moving average right now is at about 102, just under 103, which is pretty much where it's at right now. So if history repeats and we are still in a bull market, this could lead the way onto new highs. And we have to bear in mind that soon it's likely that we're going to be getting another death cross. Now, weirdly enough, the golden cross and the death cross are pretty much opposite to what they may first appear. In a golden cross, things tend to actually come down. And in a death cross, it generally marks the bottom and you get a rally up. So with a death cross coming shortly, this could also mark a local low before we get a nice rally. So those are the things that I'm keeping an eye on. Now for me, it really does depend on the US government reopening, because all this uncertainty and things starting to crack in the economy under a government shutdown, this is terrible for risk assets. Risk assets like certainty, they like to know what's going on. So obviously this is not good for Bitcoin, and if things are going down, altcoins are just going down faster. Now, if the government does reopen, I think we'll get some kind of relief rally. We will get liquidity into the system, and this probably takes us on to new highs. And then towards the end of this video, I'll let you know the key level that I'm watching, where if it were to hit this level, then I would completely sell out to avoid any catastrophic loss. So the big question on everyone's mind is, have we already hit the top? Is this now the start of the next crypto winter? That is the big question everybody wants to know. Because if the top's not in and this is just a bit of pain before we go on to new highs, then obviously that would be a great result and there's actually no need to worry. Now, there's different ways to look at this. This is something that we were tracking the whole way through, and if we actually mark the tops in here, then the average is about here. This is where the tops on average have happened in the last couple of cycles when measured from the halving. So as you can see, we have passed that time, and actually the top pretty much came almost exactly around the average. So a lot of people selling there are probably the segment of the market that believe this was the top, or they just don't want to take the risk of potentially getting any more if we start going into a winter. Now, the weird thing about this market is that we just haven't seen the big blow off top that we've got in every single market. This is what in every single cycle. This is what's really throwing people off. In fact, Bitcoin's price has been pretty close for months and months and months and months. If we go over to CoinMarketCap, we can see they've created some market cycle top indicators. So this is all the different ways that we can see when crypto hits a blow off top, then these indicators will begin to trigger. And there's not just 1 or 5 or 10. They've actually got 35 different indicators for when the cycle top could be in. And what's interesting is that how many of these do you think has already triggered? The answer is absolutely none. Not one of these 35 cycle top indicators have triggered. So it really is scratch your head, what the hell is going on? This cycle certainly has been very different to every other one, and it's been great for the Bitcoin maxis, and it's not been good at all for anybody holding altcoins. So the blue line here is a basket of altcoins, some in the top 10, there's several, including some in the top 10, some in the top 100, and this is Bitcoin. And then you can see they were together from about January 2024, but really from about here, Bitcoin has had a bull market and people have got a decent return, 200% up to 250, 300, but it's altcoins that have been absolutely crushed. And if I was going to assign one narrative, I'd say it's probably mainly to do with monetary policy. In this cycle, we had high interest rates and we had the Fed doing QT, sucking liquidity out of the system this entire time. That is the main reason why Bitcoin has done well. However, the rest of the market has just not done what it's previously done. Looking at the 4-year cycle, instead of days measured from the halving, this just groups it together to say that October, November, December is typically where you get the big blow off top. And so many people at the beginning of October took out leverage and loans to ride this absolute massive rocket, and we had the biggest liquidation in crypto's history as the market went on to do the opposite. So this is where we're at right now. We are really flirting above the key level of $100,000. It was only 2013 where we were at this point before it went vertical. So it really is an absolute critical time right now. So the question is, how do we play this out? Well, it always comes down to your asset allocation. How much risk do you want to take and how much potential reward do you want to go for? If you go for massive potential reward, then you can get absolutely crushed. However, if you want to take a less risk, yes, you get less of the upside, but you get less of the downside as well. So in these uncertain times and the craziness going on, let me just finish with sharing how I am going to navigate this storm. So for me, the recent changes, taking all of this into consideration, this is how my portfolio looks right now. So converted mostly over to Bitcoin. I have just a little bit left in MicroStrategy. This should do a lot better on the upside, however, minimizing the downside as it gets crushed on the way down, and then a cash position as well. Now, if the government reopens in the next few days, I'll likely convert this cash position over to Bitmine, so I get a bit more of a leverage on the upside, but most of it is playing defensive on the downside. As mentioned, the key level for me is the $100,000 level, and I think if the market goes up, then Bitcoin should lead the way. It's the safest play. Bitcoin should set the new all-time highs first. Then there'll be a lot more confidence in the market. Then people will rotate into altcoins, and then you may get this blow off top. However, on the downside, Bitcoin is just not going to crash 30, 40, 50, 60% anytime soon like the altcoins do. And for me, to avoid any nasty, massive crypto winter, I've put my stop losses in at 90,000. If Bitcoin breaks below 90,000, I will be out of crypto for the remainder of this cycle. So at least I have about 2/3 of what I've made. I don't completely wipe myself out, and I'm playing defensive. So if we get a break to the upside, Bitcoin should lead the way. And if Bitcoin still gets to this 150, there's a good 50% move to the upside. However, only a 10% move to the downside before I'd be out. So as always, do not copy off what I am doing. This is just one reference point of many. Only you can decide what you need to do based on your circumstances. But for full transparency, this is what I'm doing myself. With Bitcoin falling down to this $100,000 level, it really is make it or break it time for the crypto market. As I've said a number of times, this $100,000 level really is the final line in the sand. However, with that being said, I do remain optimistic. If we can get the US government reopened, then we'll likely get a relief rally, a liquidity injection, and we could all be treated to the final blow off top that we've all been waiting for. For me, I'm personally playing defensive, converting nearly everything into Bitcoin, as if we do get a run to the upside, then Bitcoin will probably lead the way, and it offers the best downside protection. And if it drops below $90,000, that is where I'll be stopping out. I'll be out for this cycle to avoid any potential crypto winter. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. So these really are testing times, and we're really at a critical level. However, that is my position. That is my levels. And now it's over to the market to decide which way this whole thing is going to go. If you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.